Dozens were falling ill with a mysterious virus that would ultimately change life as we know it.
COVID-19.
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 In 2020, as the pandemic radically changed how people ate, HelloFresh was flying high. When the world shut down, millions of people stuck at home had one solution: meal kits. That year, revenue more than doubled, surging 122% year over year in 2020. And HelloFresh swung to a hefty profit of 369 million euros after years of losses. Its stock price soared, and analysts hailed it as a pandemic victory. Flash forward to today, and HelloFresh's story took a dark turn. The growth stopped, then reversed hard. The company issued profit warnings, lost over 1 million customers in 2023, and watched its share price crater by roughly 90% from its peak. Once valued at 16.6 billion euros in mid-2021, HelloFresh's market value now sits about 93% below that peak. How did a COVID-fueled fortune turn into what some are calling a death sentence for HelloFresh? To understand that, we need to go back to 2020 when everyone was stuck at home. When the world locked down, HelloFresh's business model suddenly became exactly what everyone needed. With restaurants closed and grocery trips fraught with risk, consumers turned to meal kits as a safe, convenient alternative. HelloFresh delivers boxes of fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and recipe cards to your doorstep, letting families cook at home without meal planning or shopping. During the spring 2020 lockdowns, demand exploded. HelloFresh reported triple-digit growth, including a 122.6% revenue. For the first time, the company became profitable, earning hundreds of millions in 2020. Government stimulus checks and the lack of dining out options left many households with extra cash and motivation to try services like HelloFresh. By delivering novelty recipes and a bit of excitement to those stuck at home, HelloFresh inserted itself into pandemic routines. It aggressively marketed its kits as a way to cook fresh meals without leaving home. And for a while, it truly changed how people ate. HelloFresh's subscriber count soared, and its stock price did too. Investors saw the company as one of the clear winners of the pandemic. The company had crushed its competitors and dominated the meal kit niche. The thing is, even as HelloFresh was hitting all-time highs, warning signs were already appearing. Even as revenue climbed, industry observers warned that the meal kit model had a fundamental weakness. Customers didn't stick around. Surveys showed that many people would try a meal kit once, enticed by promotions, and then drop off within weeks. HelloFresh's own data reflected extremely high churn. In fact, one analysis found that only 9% of HelloFresh customers remained subscribed after 12 months, meaning 91% would cancel within a year. Most folks enjoyed the novelty during lockdown, but meal kits are expensive, often 2 to 4 times the cost of buying groceries for the same meals. As long as people were flush with stimulus money and stuck at home, they tolerated the cost. The only question was how hard HelloFresh would fall when lockdowns ended. By 2022 and 2023, the world opened back up and people rushed out of their kitchens. Restaurants filled up again, and many consumers who had experimented with meal kits eagerly returned to dining out, or at least ordering takeout. At the same time, inflation hit households hard, forcing belt-tightening on nice-to-have expenses. Meal kits, with their $9 to $10 per serving price tags, suddenly looked like a luxury. The company's metrics began flashing red. In 2023, as grocery and restaurant options normalized, HelloFresh's orders actually declined, dropping 2.4% in North America and over 3% in other regions. After peaking at more than 8 million active customers globally, HelloFresh saw a sharp exodus of subscribers. Over 1 million active customers quit in the first 9 months of 2023 alone. These were all core customers deciding they no longer found the service worth the cost. Industry surveys consistently show that price is the #1 reason people cancel meal kit subscriptions. Around half of ex-subscribers cite too expensive as the main cause. And with rising food prices elsewhere, many HelloFresh users felt they could shop and cook on their own for much less. The company had gone from hero to zero on the markets in a remarkably short time. Then came March 2024. HelloFresh issued a bombshell profit warning, essentially admitting growth had stalled and costs were too high. The stock plunged 42% in a single day, the worst drop since its IPO. A company once valued in the tens of billions was now worth barely over 1 billion euros. HelloFresh might never recapture its pandemic magic. Its flagship meal kit business was flatlining and even losing customers by the million. To make matters worse, the company had ramped up spending, particularly on marketing, in a bid to keep growth alive. In early 2024, HelloFresh revealed that higher marketing expenses were actually eating away at its profits. Why did HelloFresh's fortunes flip so quickly? To put it plainly, the way HelloFresh operates was never sustainable. The company spends heavily on marketing, over 15% of sales, and offers hefty intro discounts, often 50% off the first boxes. These tactics bring in waves of new users, but most never stick around long enough to become profitable. According to Bernstein's analysis, 90% of HelloFresh customers don't make a repeat purchase by the fourth quarter of the year. The few that remain are effectively subsidized by all those who tried the service once and left. HelloFresh's product itself contributes to this challenge. A meal kit package is significantly marked up compared to raw groceries. By some estimates, 2 to 4 times more expensive than buying the equivalent ingredients at a supermarket. Customers initially tolerate this premium for the convenience and fun, especially when discounts make the first orders cheap. But as soon as the full price kicks in, many do the math and feel gouged. Once you've signed up all the curious foodies willing to pay a premium, you're left fishing in the same pond for people who quit earlier. Hence, HelloFresh's a strategy of retargeting lapsed subscribers with new discounts to reactivate them. It's a churn and burn cycle. Many customers realized they could get groceries delivered and still cook at home without paying HelloFresh's premium. By late 2023, even HelloFresh's management tacitly acknowledged the core business had stalled. The company stopped disclosing its number of active customers, a key metric that it had proudly reported for years. The number of orders and customers was in decline. This accounting a sleight of hand was a red flag. Now, under pressure to stay profitable, HelloFresh did what struggling companies always do. They made short-term decisions that outraged their customers. The most loyal customers started noticing changes: heavier marketing emails, aggressive retention tactics, and even sneakier billing practices. For example, HelloFresh was accused of using dark pattern design tricks on its website to prevent cancellations. Users reported that the cancel subscription button would sometimes lead to a dead end or require navigating a confusing maze of steps. In some cases, even after thinking they'd canceled, customers kept getting meal kits and charges they didn't want. In August 2025, HelloFresh agreed to pay $7.5 million to settle a U.S. case brought by California prosecutors over misleading auto-renewal and cancellation practices. Regulators in New Zealand also warned HelloFresh customers to check their bills after finding many were still being charged for skipped meals they had tried not to order. In a flash, HelloFresh looked less like the friendly pandemic helper and more like a company trying to trap people into buying the stuff they didn't want. HelloFresh's marketing push also crossed legal lines. The company began bombarding potential customers with promotional texts, emails, and even phone calls. In the UK, this led to a rebuke. In January 2024, HelloFresh was fined £140,000 by Britain's Information Commissioner's Office for sending millions of unlawful marketing messages and continuing to contact people who had opted out. Essentially, HelloFresh spammed folks into annoyance, damaging its brand reputation for the sake of a few more conversions. Even more alarming were the ethical lapses and controversies that emerged, suggesting HelloFresh's rapid expansion was outpacing its ability to manage quality and compliance. In late 2022, a food safety scare hit the news. U.S. regulators traced an E. coli outbreak to ground beef in HelloFresh meal kits. Several people were hospitalized, prompting a recall and raising questions about HelloFresh's ingredient sourcing and handling. Then in 2024, an even uglier news broke. The U.S. Department of Labor opened a probe into child labor at a HelloFresh supply facility in Illinois. Investigators found that a contractor had allegedly employed underage migrant children to pack HelloFresh's meal kits, some as young as 13, working overnight shifts. Labor disputes became another flashpoint. Workers at HelloFresh distribution centers in California and Colorado complained of horrible working conditions, including on-the-job injuries, grueling production quotas, and intimidation during a unionization drive. HelloFresh even managed to entangle itself in an animal welfare controversy. The animal rights group PETA accused HelloFresh of sourcing coconut milk from Thai farms that used forced monkey labor, literally monkeys chained and forced to pick coconuts. Initially, HelloFresh denied wrongdoing, but after public outcry and over 100,000 petition signatures, the company announced in 2023 it would stop buying coconut products from Thailand. Again, this issue suggested a lack of oversight in HelloFresh's supply chain during its rapid growth spree. Back in the mid-2010s, investors couldn't throw money at meal kit companies fast enough. They called it the future of food. Then the model started breaking. The pandemic masked the problems for a while. Now they are all back, worse than before. One by one, HelloFresh's rivals have fallen like dominoes. Blue Apron, once valued at $2 billion after its 2017 IPO, never found profitability. In late 2023, it sold itself to a food tech startup for just $103 million. Plated, another early U.S. meal kit pioneer, had already shut down in 2019 after an unsuccessful acquisition. Smaller players like Home Chef and Sunbasket survived only by being acquired or by pivoting to niche markets. All that hype about meal kits being the future of food was killed by economics. By the end, HelloFresh was the only giant left alive. The pandemic money and massive scale kept them going while everyone else fell apart. They grabbed market share from the wreckage and dominated what was left. But being the biggest player in a struggling industry is a dubious honor. HelloFresh's success during COVID might have just been proof of concept under extraordinary conditions, not evidence of a sustainable model. Now that normalcy has returned, the bare case is that meal kits simply don't work as a long-term business. In a recent critical report, HelloFresh was even described as a zombie company, a final domino clinging to life while the business model is effectively dead. That might sound over the top, but it reflects how much the sentiment has turned. The question investors are asking is not just if HelloFresh will thrive, but whether it can survive at all in the coming years. Management is trying to rebrand HelloFresh as a broader food solutions group. Branching into prepared foods, groceries, they launched an online butcher service and even a pet food line and international expansion. Indeed, the company is betting big on ready-to-eat meals as the next engine of growth, aiming for another 50% increase in that segment. The idea is that busy consumers might not even want to cook HelloFresh recipes, but would happily buy microwavable healthy dinners. At the same time, HelloFresh has belatedly started cutting costs, closing down redundant distribution centers and laying off staff in markets where it overexpanded. Investors like Union Investment have warned this turnaround is management's last chance to restore credibility. One more misstep, and investors will want them out. Activists are already pushing for control. HelloFresh changed dinner for millions of people, at least for a while. During the pandemic, convenience and novelty were enough to build one of Europe's most valuable consumer brands. But when the world moved on, the numbers didn't. Customers wanted value, but costs kept climbing. And before anyone could react, 15 billion euros in market value was gone. From the looks of it, the entire meal kit category may fade into a smaller domain or evolve into something new.